Zenigata arrives on Demon's Head Island, having heard of Lupin's presence, and is greeted by a rather panicky guide. Turns out he needn't have looked too far as they're just offshore. Fujiko's heard of an old war between two families that led to their ships, both loaded with gold, sinking somewhere around the island. Later, Zenigata is told that Lupin's been sighted in a forest. Fujiko's heard that people disappear on foggy nights. Guess what sets in just then? Three figures emerge and attack the pair. Fujiko is taken and Zenigata catches up to Lupin. Despite being cuffed, Lupin doesn't really have time to play right now. Zenigata's guide charges after him but ends up in the cuffs himself for his efforts. Lupin follows the kidnappers out to the shoreline, with Jigen and Goemon making their appearance. They're annoyed Lupin hasn't found out much about this treasure, but decide to help out just so they don't potentially lose out. An island castle is across the water, so Jigen provides Lupin with some motorised water skis, which Lupin navigates with style. Fujiko has been taken to the castle, where an old man Genpaku informs a crazy man Momotaro of her arrival. Momotaro has a love of collecting butterflies, among other things, and wants to add her to his collection. I think we did this premise before. Fujiko awakes to Momotaro, well, acting crazy as he tries to net her. He also plans to perform some surgery on her and has a henchman provide an anaesthetic. Thankfully, this henchman is Lupin. Genpaku is informed and hits the alarm. Lupin and Fujiko are cornered, but Jigen and Goemon come to their aid. They also encounter Zenigata, but his aid gets too into a traffic cop routine. Goemon notes that Fujiko's gone missing again, however. Fujiko's broken off and discovered a submarine. Inside is the fabled gold. Momotaro's woken up and aims to preserve her. Once again, Lupin is to the rescue. Unfortunately, the submarine doesn't have any power. Lupin performs a paint job on the wall of one of the enemy ships and has Goemon cut the shape out. Using this and the skis, they smuggle the submarine past Genpaku and his guard. Oh, and the castle explodes thanks to Jigen. Zenigata's in pursuit, but his own submarine runs out of power. I should mention the name of these characters are from Lupin Encyclopedia's summary, as I don't recall them actually being named in the episode. They seem to balance each other out in terms of characterisation, with Genpaku being more a traditional antagonist and Momotaro being the crazy weirdo type. That said, I feel like Genpaku's the stronger character here, despite less screen time, while Momotaro's just kind of there. As an episode, this one definitely veers more towards slapstick, what with Momotaro and Zenigata's guide and their back and forth. Also been a while since we've seen Lupin and Fujiko work solo, so that was nice even if it was only for a small part of the episode. An aspiring star named Vivian is headed to an audition, running into, among others, a pair of crooks by the name Bucky and Butcher. Her audition fails, but as she leaves she spots Lupin on the run from Zenigata and decides to use his name to become famous. Calling up the media, she claims that Lupin stole her cat, and they aren't impressed. The only one still interested is a young boy wanting to know the motive for stealing the cat. On the spot she claims it eats pencil shavings based on watching him sharpen his pencil. Lupin's pretty incensed upon learning about this. Despite the others telling him not to worry about a school paper, he decides to hunt down this supposed cat. Vivian gives her statement to the police, and though Zenigata doesn't really believe her, he makes it his duty to look into anything Lupin related. The gang are put on search duty with no luck. Bucky and Butcher spot Lupin and figure he's up to something. The gang tell Lupin they're sick of doing this right as Bucky and Butcher introduce themselves claiming they've found the cat. Sure enough, it chomps down on the shavings. Driving to Vivian's, she denies it, knowing she was lying the whole time. She's soon proven wrong. Bucky and Butcher run off with the cat, intending to breed it to have more pencil-eating cats and make money from them. Somehow. Vivian follows, and the cat ends up in Lupin's possession due to their fighting over it. His attempts to hide it from the others fail, however. Not wanting Vivian or the two crooks to get it, he tosses it away and races upstairs to catch it. Hiding out, he feeds the cat the pencil to keep it quiet. Turns out the pencil is just dried fish. He calls Jigen for some help, and Vivian uses the same phone to get Zenigata on the case. Lupin ends up in a warehouse. The rest of the gang, meanwhile, set about buying dried fish. They then cut it into pencil shapes and tie it to the car. This attracts a bunch of stray cats. Losing patience, Zenigata orders the warehouse blasted open. Lupin and the cat are nowhere to be found. Worse still, the damage ends up causing the building to collapse. Lupin disguises as one of the officers in order to slip away, and Zenigata declares a retreat, figuring this was a waste of time. Lupin unmasks to Vivian and the crooks, telling them they can have all the cats they want. The gang then drive by with the cats in tow. They toss the dried fish and leave everyone to it. Despite this, Vivian ends up benefiting as she's trained the cats to be part of a circus dance troupe. Bucky and Butcher also manage to make money by selling the cats, planning to run before their customers discover the truth about the pencils. When I first watched this one, I found it to be one of the weakest of Series 2, and that's not really changed. Vivian's implied to not exactly be the brightest bulb, but how was Lupin stealing a cat that didn't exist going to help her in the long run? Plus, Bucky and Butcher's plan to breed the cat was kinda questionable at best. Speaking of someone who's owned cats in the past, I can honestly say that they can eat far stranger than pencil shavings if you aren't careful. On top of that, they're the ones who came up with the scan pencil in the first place, so why were they so eager to steal and breed it? Finally, above all else, Lupin feels pretty secondary in all this. Still, when you have a series as lengthy as this, not all episodes are going to hit, I suppose. Plus, it's not unwatchable or anything, just not very good. We open on yet another wedding between Lupin and Fujiko. For once it's a dream of Fujiko's, though she's confused at how vivid the ring was in her mind. She brings Lupin to the Smithsonian and tells him she wants to get married with this particular ring. It's not well guarded, the reason according to Jigen being it's brought great misfortune to its owners, Marie Antoinette among them. Of course, this does nothing to deter Lupin from wanting it. Breaking into the Smithsonian, Lupin falls victim to some sort of evil spirit surrounding the ring. First his rope snaps, then a strange wind blows, continuing even after shutting the door. The wind intensifies and Lupin nearly impales himself. Not one to be stopped, he presses forward against the wind, but then has trouble opening the display case. He goes into a meditation and the spirit opens the case, then clamps it down on Lupin's hands when he reaches for the ring. Granted, Lupin always comes with a pair of fake hands for just such an occasion. While escaping, his car breaks down, so he resorts to a horse and cart. The weather's too intense, however, and he ends up going over a cliff in flames. Jigen and Goemon find Lupin hanging from a cliff. Despite the setbacks, the ring is his, much to the others' pessimism and the return of the Zantetsuken Black Shadow. The wedding goes ahead, but when Lupin moves to kiss the bride, she reveals to have become a hideous old crone. It's a mask, of course, meaning Fujiko now has the diamond for herself. Meanwhile, Zenigata emerges, having overheard the gang talking about the ring. He's also proving to be a better shot than usual. As Fujiko admires the ring, it gets stolen. She chases the thief and he gets knocked out by a baseball. A crow then grabs it and Fujiko ends up chasing it and falling into an open manhole. The crow ends up right in Zenigata's line of fire, though all that happens is it loses its feathers. Fujiko grabs the ring back and heads to a bathroom to clean up from her sewer tumble. When she looks in the mirror, her reflection resembles the mask she wore. Realising the ring really is cursed, she tosses it out a window. This ends up causing a car pile-up that the rest of the gang get caught in. The ring also returns to the bathroom, causing Fujiko to flee in fear. After a long rest, Fujiko wakes up to discover a room lined with diamonds. Normally she'd celebrate it, but it just freaks her out. It was all part of a revenge scheme by the rest of the gang, as repayment for cursing them. Though Lupin dives out to save her upon sensing she's calling his name. Compared to the last one, this one is actually one I liked. Sure, it's a bit weird and has a bit of unexplained supernatural, but feels a bit more in line with the rest of the series. Anyway, enjoyable episode if once again a bit dragged out towards the end of the first half. If this weren't episodic, I imagine Fujiko would be put off trying to steal diamonds anytime soon. You also have to pity whatever poor so-and-so ends up with the ring next. Zenigata's tracked down Lupin's latest hideout, but all he finds is a note saying he's travelling. Sure enough, the only one there is Fujiko, who explains Lupin's taking some downtime in a hot spring. Downtime translating to getting plastered on sake and spying on women. Doesn't last as a bear scares him off. Jigen is also taking downtime, relaxing in the field with a drink. Anyway, on to the actual story. Goemon is training his swordsmanship and spots a girl in the reflection of Zantetsuken's blade. She greets him as he practices on some straw dummies and comments that his outfit is funny as he reminds her of a medieval stage actor. Lupin teases Goemon for being clearly interested in her, telling him her name is Nami Hamanaka. He also throws stones at Goemon's training dummies and reveals she took one of the steel beams supporting them. Nami shows the beam to a swordsmith grandfather. I'll just call him Hamanaka for convenience. He's amazed at the cut and determines it really is Zantetsuken, his goal in life being to replicate it. Nami visits Goemon in his room asking to borrow Zantetsuken to learn more, but she's refused. Plus it's Lupin under the covers, who gets slapped for making a move on her. Hamanaka, meanwhile, decides to spy on Goemon while training. While it snows, he realises that the snow melts quickly on Zantetsuken's blade, meaning it's a different temperature. Nami visits Goemon again and taunts him by claiming she and Lupin were together, specifying a mole. He hits her with the flat of the blade and she realises it is indeed heated. Goemon is left realising she was lying, much to Lupin's confusion. Hamanaka forges another blade and tests the heat on her, to which she declares it successful. On top of that, it does indeed cut steel. He then challenges Goemon to a duel, but Goemon makes short work of the sword. Hamanaka continues forging swords, working himself to near death doing so. Nami joins in, and an observing Lupin wonders if Goemon may lose. Nami once again approaches Goemon and asks to let her grandfather win. He refuses, going back to his training. The sword then breaks and it's revealed that she slipped her grandfather's sword into one of the training dummies. Hamanaka is watching and dies satisfied that he developed a sword that beats Zantetsuken. Goemon later confronts Lupin and suspects the truth, that Lupin switched the swords out to humour the two of them. Lupin promises to get the sword back eventually, leaving Goemon with a substitute until then. The opening few minutes of this episode were kind of random to say the least. Especially Jigen's segments as he does nothing but drink. Likely just there to give Kiyoshi Kobayashi some lines or something. While fairly low action, this episode does look quite nice at the very least. Plus it's been a while since we've had some focus on the various things on what makes Zantetsuken such a unique sword. Next time, a duel to the death, a magic camera, an old friend of Jigen's with a treasure protected by video games, and a fight to rescue Goemon make up the episodes leading to 112. Until then.